In this section, we're going to be looking for a missing angle. Notice this time the reference angle is what we're looking for. So the setup is simple, but we got to talk about inverses because that's what we're going to need to use to solve. So let's go a little bit abstract here. So if you remember, we've talked about functions before. So what does a function do? Well, a function maps one value to another. So basically f of x, f of 1 sends it to a 5. This right here is our domain. This right here is our range. So what does an inverse function do? Well, what an inverse function does is it maps backwards. And what it does, f inverse switches domain and range. X and Y. It's going to switch those two. So if you remember before, what we were doing when we use a trig function like sine and cosine, we're putting our domain is an angle. So if you think about this, remember we use sine of 25 equals like x over 2. If you remember our domain, sine of 25, sine is a function. So it's taking an angle and it's giving us a side. That's what we did in the last section. So we took an angle, let's say 25, and outspits a side. So how are we going to go backwards? So that's what sine did. Sine gave us a side from an angle. So how do we go backwards? How do we take a side and go back to an angle? Well, how are we going to do that? We're going to use the inverse of sine. We're going to call that sine inverse. It's sine with the little -1 there. Or it's also called arc sine. So you can call it that. That's what's going to be used. That's what's going to cancel it out. It's what's going to take a side and give us an angle.